Good evening, viewers and listeners of Concerned Citizens Media. Thank you again for coming back. I always appreciate your presence. Today is May the 19th, 2022. Welcome back. I have some news to share with you. I will start with the frustration the residents of Addis Ababa expressing to ISAT TV, ISAT Addis Ababa. These residents expressing frustration about the cost of living in Addis Ababa and the inflation, just unaffordable and very hard to feed their family. They are just expressing very deep frustration, and also talking about how the food, the quality of the food, and the price is, different these days. When they talk about the quality of the food is just, you can't even tell if it's, especially the injera, if it is made from the real teff or some mixed chemicals. So they talking different problems they are facing in Addis Ababa. It is in Amharic, and I appreciate the SAT sometimes expose or tell the truth what the people are facing. Sometimes they try to cover it up for the government, but now they telling us how people are living in Addis Ababa, how hard, very hard to be in Addis Ababa, and the people are frustrated. They don't know what to do. They cannot even protest in public against the government in Addis Ababa because, as you already know, so many undercover operations in that country, the security, the police, and the army, all of them are, very attentive to any opposition, any demonstration in that country. So, they are abducting even the general. They abducted Tafarra Mamo, General Tafarra Mamo. Now I think, is found in Bahar Dar jail. He was abducted in Addis Ababa by undercover operatives. That country is in a very bad shape. So the people doesn't have any. The people don't have any option except crying, except telling to the media. They don't have any other option. They cannot organize because of so many spies around them in Addis Ababa, especially so many security officers, so many undercover operatives to silence the public anger, the public frustration. So let's listen. If you understand the Amharic, you will understand how how bad is the situation in Addis Ababa.
ወደ መጀመሪያ ዜና እናምራለን። ከነገ ዛሬ ሻሻላል ሲባል ይበልጥ እየናረ የመጣው የኑሮ ውድነት መቋቋም ወደማይቻልበት ደረጃ ደርሶ ለጤንነት እክል ሳይቀር እያጋለጠን ነው ሲሉ ኢሳት ያነጋገራቸው የአዲስ አበባ ከተማ ነዋሪዎች ገለጹ። በልቶ ማደር ተስኖናል ያሉት አስተያየት ሰጪዎቹ ልጆቻችንንና ቤተሰቦቻችንን ይዘን የት እንደምንገባ ግራ ገብቶናል ብለዋል። መንግስት ህዝብ እየደረሰበት ያለውን ዘርፈ ብዙ ችግር መቋቋም አቅቶት እየተፈተነ ባለበት በዚህ ወቅት በህወሓት ዳግም ጦርነት ህዝቡ ዋጋ እንዲከፍል እድል መስጠት የለበትም ሲሉ የከተማዋ ነዋሪዎች አሳስበዋል። ተጨማሪ ያለን ሰው ብቻውን እያወራ ነው። ይህንን ያሉት እየተባባሰ የመጣውና መፍትሄ ያልተገኘለት የኑሮ ውድነት ህይወታችንን በእጅጉ እየፈተነው ይገኛል ያሉት ኢሳት ተዘዋውሮ ያነጋገራቸው የአዲስ አበባ ከተማ ነዋሪዎች ናቸው። ሁሉም ሰው ብቻውን እያወራ ነው የሚሄደው። ብቻውን እያወራ በቃ አይምሮ ራሱ ለቆ በህዝቡ በአስፋልት የሚያርሰው ህዝብ ጤናማ ይመስላል። ብቻ እያወራ ነው የሚንቀሳቀሰው ህዝብ። እኔ ራሴ ብቻ ያወራለሁ። እውነቴን ነው። እኔ አሁን ልጆቼ ምን ይበላሉ? እኔስ ምን እበላለሁ? ወርስ መጥቶብኛል ወይ? የቤት ኪራይ ማን የሚከፍልልኝ? እንዴት እኖራለሁ? እንዴት እሆናለሁ ብዬ ለራሴ ጭንቅላቴ እስኪዞር ድረስ ብቻ ያወራለሁ። ህብረተሰቡ በአሁኑ ሰዓት ከአሁኑ ስርዓት የፊተኛው ይሻላል፣ ከፊተኛ ደግሞ የፊተኛው ይሻላል እያለ የኋላውን ስርዓቶች ወይም ደግሞ ያለፉ ስርዓቶችን እያሞገሰ እየመጣ ነው። እታች ያሉ ሰዎች ወርዶ ለምን አያዩንም? እኛ ኢትዮጵያ ውስጥ ተወልደን ኢትዮጵያ ውስጥ አድገን በራብስ እየተቃጠልን አይደለም ወይ? ኑሮ ውድነት አትቻለም እናቴ። ምን ይሻላል? ሽንኩርት ብትዩ፣ ቃሪያ ብትዩ፣ በርበሬው ብትዩ እዛ ላይ ወጣ፣ ጤፉ እዛ ላይ ወጣ። ከአቅማችን በላይ ሆነ። ለምንድን ነው?
So they this basic supply, basic items unaffordable to purchase.
ሰርተሽ የምትጠቀሚበት ሰዓት አይደለም። ሰውን ማስተዳደራችን በክራይ ያለ ኑሮ ውድነት ነው። ከአቅም በላይ ሆኗል። ከዚህ አትኬጅ አለ ብር የሚሆን ነገር የለም። ህብረተሰቡ ከኑሮ ጋር አብሮ መደል ቻለን። ጠዋት በገዛንበት ዋጋ ከሰዓት መድገም አንችልም። በየሰዓቱና በየዕለቱ የዋጋ ንረቱ ከፍ እያለ ነው የሚገኘው ያሉት አስተያየት ሰጪዎች፣ ይህ ደግሞ የተቆጣጣሪ አካላትን ክፍተትና ቸልተኝነት ማሳያ ነው ያሉት። በአሁኑ ሰዓት ልክ መንግስት እንዳሌለ ነው ሰው በፈለገበት የሚሸጠው ማለት ነው። ጠዋት ለምሳሌ የሚጠይቁት ገበያና ከሰዓት ደግሞ እንደገና እየጨመረ ከዕለት ዕለት ይሄዳል። ሁለተኛ ከአንዱ ሱቅ ደግሞ የተለያየ ሽያጭ ነው ህዝቡ የሚያካሂደው። ይሄኛ ምንድነው? የቁጥር ማነስ። የቤት ኪራይ አለ፣ የልጅ ወጪ አለ፣ ሳሙና አለ፣ ወተት እንኳን በዚህ ሰዓት ለዛሬ አጠጣለሁ ብዬ አላስብም በራሴ ማለት ነው። እኔ አሁን ልጄ ዳቦ እንኳን እቺን ሰርቼ ዳቦ አበላው ነው ለልጄ ማስበው። እንጀራ 10 ብር፣ እሱንም ዛሬ ለማታ ወስደሽ መትጠቀሚው እንጀራ እንጂ አሁን አሳድረ ቁርስ በላለሁ አትይ። ፌስታልስ ዱቄት ነው የሚሆነው እንጀራው ራሱ። ንጹህ ጤፍ መሆኑ ራሱ እርግጠኛ አይደለሁም። ንጹህ ጤፍ ነው ብለሽ ብታመጪ ትኩስ ሰዓት ላይ ጥሩ ነው። አሁን አመጣሽ ልትበይ ስትይ ወዲያውን የተለያየ ቃና ነው ያለ። አንዱ ጣዕም አለው፣ አንዱ ይቆመጥጣል፣ አንዱ ይጎመዝዛል። በቃ አስቸጋሪ ምግብ ነው። ያው ፈጣሪ በኃይሉ እየጠበቀን ነው የምንኖረው እንጂ በአላህ ኃይል እንጂ በእኛ ኃይል እንግዲህ እስካሁን ራሱ አላህ ኃይል እንጂ በእኛ ኃይል እንግዲህ እስካሁን ራሱ ማለቅ ነበረብን። በሱ ኃይል ነው የምንንቀሳቀሰው። በዚህ በኩል የኑሮ ጦርነት፣ በዚያ በኩል ደግሞ ሌላ ዳግም ጦርነት ይከፈትባቸዋል የሚለው ወሬ እረፍት ነስቶናል ያሉት እኒህ ያነጋገርናቸው የአዲስ አበባ ከተማ ነዋሪዎች መንግስት አፋጣኝ እልባት ሊሰጠው ይገባል ብለዋል። ራብም ጦርነት አለው እኮ ራብም የቀጣው ጦርነትን መጥቶ ምኑን ይቋቋማል ብለሽ ታስቢያለሽ? ይሄም ማሰብ ይከብዳል በጣም።
So she talking about the fear of upcoming war. So they are frustrated with the life, and if the war comes, it will be worse. So they are in a very bad situation.
ጦርነት ፈላጊውን ግን አይ ማለት ነው የጋራ ምክክር ቢመጣና ጦርነቱ በሰላም መንገድ የሚጠናቀቅበት ወይም ደግሞ ተቻችሎ የሚኖርበት ሁኔታ የእያንዳንዱ ከግለሰብ ደም ተነስቶ እስከ ማህበራዊ ወይም ደግሞ እስከ ፖለቲከኛ እስከ ተቃዋሚና እስከ መንግስት ያንን ተመካክሮ ለጋራ ለአገሪቷ ይመቻል የሚል መሰረታዊ የሆነ ወደ አንድ ቢመጡ የኑሮ ነገሮች
So he's talking about diffusing tension, you know, ending the
በየደረጃ የሚታየውን ሙስናና ብልሹ አሰራር ለመከላከል NATO Secretary.
Okay, I will come back to the NATO after reading a couple of news. So that is the situation in Addis Ababa, and as you heard, people are, you know, from hunger, the hunger issue, the inflation, turning the people to become or turning them to you know, into psychological problem. Everybody is speaking to self, what to feed the children, what to feed, what to eat for themselves, how to pay the house rent, and all these frustration turning to psychological or mental problem. And what was the answer for the government? From the government, just eat the weeds or leave the city if you cannot live, if you cannot afford to live in the city, get out and live in the countryside. Countryside may be the same. Everywhere is a problem. So people are frustrated. The other thing they talk about is uncontrolled price of items and just fluctuating, and prices keep changing, and the government failed to act on that one too. So something you buy in the morning, if you want to buy in the afternoon, the price is higher, and from shop to shop the price is very different. So uncontrolled price, inflation, and the fear of upcoming war. All this is, turning the residents of Addis Ababa. This is only Addis Ababa. I think it is the same everywhere. The living expenses are higher everywhere, but they now testing, ISAT is testing or checking how the people are living in Addis Ababa, and they are honestly expressing what they feel, honestly, and they don't know what to do except, praying to God, and there is no government help, and they cannot demonstrate like Sudanese. They cannot come out. The fear of abduction or fear of live shot or fear of mass arrest, because the prime minister is brutal. His forces are brutal than Agazi forces. Agazi time people can demonstrate. This time, very hard to demonstrate. He will shoot you, he will kill you, he will arrest you, he will abduct you by using available resources. And all these military, federal police, undercover, all of them loyal to the prime minister, very loyal. That's why people are just expressing what they feel to the media and keep their mouths shut. So that is a very frustration, and that is a situation, and we follow it, and I hope they will come out. I hope they will come out and demonstrate, protest against this prime minister, unless there is no change in that country. Living expenses are higher, people hate each other, and war is everywhere. So I don't know. It's very tough, but people should try like Sudanese. They should try like Sudanese and express their frustration and the change of government in that country. Sudanese protested because of the food price, the bread. Ethiopia is more than a bread. Life is very expensive in every direction, and the conflict, death and the destruction and the war. So that's much more than to handle. So thank you. Let's read other news. Thank you again for coming back. Right Commission confirms Oromo Liberation Front leaders detained against due process, subjected to abuse. The Ethiopian Human Rights Commission, EHRC, released the finding of its monitoring on the detention of senior leaders of the opposition Oromo Liberation Front, OLF, in various police stations in Oromia regional state. The report confirmed that several OLF leaders and members are detained without due process. We already reported on this one. So many international organizations reported. It's well known. Now the government Human Rights Commission is saying it now. This is already known. There is no due process in Ethiopia. Even those released by the judge, rearrested by Abiy Ahmed undercover operatives. There is lawlessness in that country. EHRC's new report confirmed OLF repeated plea asking for the release of its leadership and accusing the police of torturing them while in detention. In February, the leaders went on hunger strike for more than a week, protesting against their prolonged unlawful detention, which led to the deterioration of their health conditions have deteriorated. Family members are also prevented from visiting them. Ethiopian Human Rights Commission's report said it is monitoring included visits to detainees include those granted bail by court, those whose cases were closed and acquitted by a court of law, and those who prosecutors filed no charge against. However, Ethiopia Human Rights Commission found that some of the detainees who had been in detention for months to 2 years had been subjected to various forms of abuse and ill treatment. Ethiopia Human Rights Commission said its team conducted the monitoring based on complaint from the party and the families of the detainees from March 8 to 1822. March 8 to 18, 2022. Accordingly, the team visited Burayu, Galan, Sabata Towns Police Station, all located in Oromia Special Zone surrounding Finfinne, and conducted interviews with the detainees, police chiefs, the Oromia Police Commission, and representatives of the Oromia Attorney General. Ethiopia Human Rights Commission also reviewed court decisions, orders, and medical records of the detainees. Of the 6 detainees of OLF leadership held in Burayu police station who were interviewed include Mikhail Gobana, Qananisa Ayana, Dr. Gada Wajira, Dawit Abdata, Lammi Benya, and Gada Gabbisa. Furthermore, the commission confirmed from families that Colonel Gammachu Ayana is currently being held at the Federal Police Criminal Investigation Center, while Abdi Ragasa is held at the Oromia Regional State Special Police Camp in the town of Galan. The commission also confirmed that Bate Urgesa, who was in police custody, was allowed to bail to receive medical treatment. Chief Commissioner of Ethiopian Human Rights Commission, Dr. Daniel Bekkele, said because OLF party leaders have been illegally detained for a long time and should be released immediately and compensated for the damage they sustained. In addition, Daniel said because court and the prosecutors' decisions have been repeatedly violated and the detainees unlawfully in detention is a misuse of power. The Oromia regional government should immediately investigate and take appropriate action. Good saying, but it's not the Oromia regional authority or Oromia regional government. No, it is from the Prime Minister of Ethiopia, Abiy Ahmed. All are connected, but since the Ethiopian Human Rights Commission is founded by Abiy Ahmed, they try to play it in a smooth way, blaming the regional government. But he knows, Mr. Daniel Bekkele, he knows it's well organized by intelligence officers, by the Prime Minister and the Oromia regional government. That's why it's very hard, or that's why these people are denied bail and refuse to be released after the court found them not guilty. As the Prime Minister is the guilty here. Similarly, Dr. Abdi Jibril, Ethiopia Human Rights Commissioner for Civil, Political, Economic, and Social Rights, reiterated that detainees should be protected from human rights abuses, especially as they political party leaders and due to their public service. However, it was saddening to see the reverse in action, he said, and stressed that the issue needed to be resolved immediately. I hope so. The Commission called on Oromia National Regional State Police Commission to facilitate the immediate release of all detainees held without due process. It also recommended that any detainees held in a similar pre-trial detention circumstances should be released immediately unless a credible charges were filed. Please tell the Prime Minister of Ethiopia. Don't tell the Oromia region. Don't play that game. The head is the problem. The head. The Commission also called on the regional state to ensure that all police and security forces comply with and enforce court and prosecutors' orders and decisions, as well as to investigate Oromia government security officers and officials who beat prisoners and take appropriate action and ensure accountability. It also urges for the compensation to be offered to the detainees for the mistreatment they sustained in police custody. We really appreciate it, but he is missing the head of the nail. The head of the nail is the Prime Minister. He is the one, ignoring the country's constitution, ignoring the country's law, and playing, on the lives of these individuals and others. It's not only the Oromia regional police or the Oromia regional government. No. Yeah, they try to play a game, diverting to smaller apples. Okay, the commission, let me see, for me, okay. Addis Standard report on the arrest. On 09 February this year, the Federal Supreme Court closed the case file of Colonel Gamachu Ayana, a senior OLF official, and 4 other ranking members of the party after the defense team filed complaints of human rights violations and defiance of court orders by prosecutors and by the police. Only 3 of the defendants, including Colonel Gamachu Ayana, was arraigned in court, and the whereabouts of the remaining 2 defendants are unknown, lawyer Milkias Bulcha told Addis Standard. In November last year, the prosecutor filed the appeal against the defendant in Colonel Gamachu's file at the Federal Supreme Court 6 months after he and 13 other OLF members were acquitted of terrorism charges. The prosecutor filed an appeal at the Federal Supreme Court to overturn the decision made by the Federal High Court. The Federal High Court dismissed the prosecutor's evidence that include taped phone conversations, which are no longer admissible in court as per the new proclamation 11/7/6/2012. During the next consecutive sessions, the defense team filed complaint to the court detailing the human rights violation their client suffered due to several unlawful arrests and rearrests, according to Milkias. He added that the defense team complained to the court about how the prosecutor collaborated with the police to keep their client under detention by force for over 6 months, defying court orders. The lawyers also accused the Federal Attorney General of failing to discharge its duties of addressing the rights violation of the defendants while they were in detention. We demanded our clients to be freed. Our clients were not only unlawfully held, but were also prevented from meeting their defense team, he said. The defense team demanded that their clients should be set free and follow the case from outside, Milquez said, further expressing doubt about the autonomy of the court. The defense team demanded that all those in the justice system, from the Federal Attorney General to the police, be held accountable as per civil and criminal code, the lawyer explained. The judge then decided to suspend the prosecutor's appeal and ordered the prosecutor to provide an explanation and launch an investigation into the alleged rights violations. Milquez explained that the court decided that the defendants to remain under custody since they don't know who arrested them. It's sad. It is very sad. Don't know who arrested them? The Prime Minister and his colleagues, all these criminals. It is odd that the court does not know who jailed our defendants. We will file a complaint at the Judicial Administration Council, Milquez said, adding, our clients were transferred to several detention centers, including informal ones, but currently they are detained at the Federal Police Investigation Bureau. We don't know why the judge closed the file but failed to release our client, because of the Prime Minister control who can be released, who can be detained, not the judge. The judge didn't set an alternative appointment, and the duration of time allowed for the prosecutors to finalize its investigation while the defendants remain under custody is not known, Milquez said. This is a clear violation of local and international laws that warrant disciplinary measures, he added. He disclosed that the defense team will file an appeal to the Federal Supreme Court, Succession Division, or Judicial Administration Council after discussing with their client. The defendants were taken back to the Federal Police Detention Center in Addis Ababa, where they have been staying for the last several months. The hearing of the defendants in Colonel Gamachu's file after the reopening of the file in November featured many irregularities, including an absence of judges from trial. Most of the trials were postponed multiple times. At his first appearance after his acquittal, Gamachu had to attend the hearing. Gamachu had to attend the hearing in the absence of his defense team because they were not made aware of his court appearance. The hearing was postponed until the next day, but the police did not bring the defendant to court on that day earlier. Colonel Gamachu, who was previously jailed and freed from charges, was rearrested in July 2020 after the assassination of Hachalu Hundessa, where terrorism charges were reinstated. For 18 months, he remained jailed after he was repeatedly granted bail and rearrested multiple times and transferred to over 18 formal and informal detention camps without the knowledge of his family and lawyers, Milquez said. So that is the situation in Ethiopia. It is a very bad situation. That is this is the one creating fear in public, even though they are suffering from hunger, inflation, and all these atrocities and disrespect, and from the government, whether local level, regional level, or federal level. They cannot say anything because the system is apartheid. The system is corrupt, and you cannot challenge the system. And there is no rule of law. Law and order is broken. These people are just, arrested, taken to formal and informal prison cells, and tortured, and nobody is accounted for. Nobody. That's why individuals under the file of Johar Mohammed, OFC senior political leader, refused to appear in court. That was a very good decision because there is no law and order. There is no respect for the court system. Abiy is the one deciding, and Abiy and some his collaborators and these criminal police forces and undercover operatives. The police supposed to protect the law, the constitution, and the justice the same way, but they cannot do. The guy is learning from Isaias Afewerki. Every bad thing, how to control, how to be a dictator. That's why we, concerned citizens media, repeatedly called upon him, to resign, open way for a better system, and the public to act like Sudanese and other nationalities who can defend their rights instead of just dying in silence. Okay, this one is 16 African CSOs petition United Nations to halt protracted war in Ethiopia. Several African civil society organizations wrote a letter to the United Nations Security Council highlighting concern over the situation in Ethiopia. A consortium of individuals and organizations were signatories to the letter, which called upon the United Nations Security Council to lay focus on Ethiopia and learn from the past mistakes of the United Nations body in times of conflict. It called upon the United Nations Security Council to take decisive action in offering increasing humanitarian aid and moving toward a political settlement. The letter set forth a list of expectations for the United Nations Security Council so that the precarious situation in the north of Ethiopia could come to a close. Full letter. This is a one-page full letter written by 16 civic organizations. Your Excellency, we, the undersigned, write on behalf of our members across the African continent and concerned African everywhere to ask you to provide leadership in ending the ongoing war in Ethiopia. Since November 2020, the federal government under Prime Minister Abiy has been fighting against the Tigray People's Liberation Front, TPLF, the leaders of the Tigray region and formerly the dominant party of the national level. The war has inflicted unimaginable human suffering. A joint investigation of the United Nations Human Rights Council and the Ethiopian Human Rights Commission found that parties on both sides to the conflict have committed serious human rights abuse, including attacks on civilians, unlawful killings, and extrajudicial executions, torture, arbitrary detentions, abductions, and enforced disappearance, and rape, and other sexual violence. The government has sought to use food as a weapon of war, blocking humanitarian assistance as a tool to starve Tigrayans into submission. It has been estimated that 500,000 people have died, 4.2 million have displaced, and 9 million are in need of humanitarian assistance. In this context, there are serious reasons for concern about ongoing ethnic tensions and that violence may rise to the level of genocide. Indeed, the Special Advisor to the United Nations Secretary General on the Prevention of Genocide has repeatedly raised concerns about the ethnic and religious basis of attacks and the use of language like cancer and devil to refer to human beings cast as opponents. A recent joint report by Amnesty International and the Human Rights Watch, based on over 400 interviews conducted over 15 months, document ethnic cleansing in Western Tigray. Despite the seriousness of the situation, the United Nations Security Council has failed to formally address the situation in Ethiopia. The United Nations Human Rights Council has already taken significant action to bring the human rights violations committed in Ethiopia to light, both through its joint investigation with the Ethiopian Human Rights Commission and through the appointment of an international commission of human rights experts. The United Nations Security Council should support these efforts with its diplomatic muscles. 28 years ago, the Security Council similarly failed to recognize the warning signs of genocide in Rwanda or act to stop it. This failure was analyzed by the International Panel of Eminent Personalities, which concluded that the United Nations had the means to intervene, but simply didn't care enough about Rwanda to intervene appropriately. We are concerned that the situation is repeating itself in Ethiopia today. We call on you to learn the lessons from Rwanda and act now. The announcement of a truce in late March offers an important opening for dialogue. Action must be taken now, while both sides are publicly committed to it, to increase humanitarian aid delivered to Tigray, assuage fears, and create opportunity for building confidence and moving toward a negotiated political solution. This is a critical moment for the United Nations to take decisive action that leverage these openings to benefit the people of Ethiopia. This cannot be done, however, without clear leadership from the United Nations Security Council. For these reasons, we call on the United Nations Security Council to formally place Ethiopia on its agenda. Once the situation in Ethiopia is formally on the agenda, the Council should request regular reporting on the situation on the ground in Ethiopia. This reporting could be provided by the Secretary General's Special Representative for the Horn, Hanan Tet. This will provide the Council with both the information that it needs and the forum to monitor the extent to which the government of Ethiopia and the Tigrayan regional government comply with their international law obligation and stated commitment. Press the parties for immediate and unimpeded humanitarian access, including access to detention facilities where civilians are particularly at risk. Impose an arms embargo on all parties to the conflict with a United Nations monitoring body to report on the implementation of the embargo. Call for the disarmament of and accountability for the informal militias that have been at the forefront of grave human rights violations. Call for a verification mechanism to ensure withdrawal of Eritrean troops in Ethiopia. Support political mediation of the conflict in cooperation with African Union. Support the deployment of an AU-led international peacekeeping force in Western Tigray with a robust mandate and a capacity to protect civilians and promote delivery of humanitarian aid, and support accountability for those responsible for the most serious violations committed over the last 16 months, including by supporting the work of the International Commission of Human Rights Experts. Such action will be vital to assisting the Ethiopian men and women and children who have been suffering both direct hostilities associated human rights violations and obstructed humanitarian aid. Yours sincerely. So these are the organization signed this petition to United Nations. African Center for Justice and Peace Studies, Sudan. Africa Jom Center, Atrocities Watch, Center for Democracy and Development, CDD, Nigeria, Eritrean Movement for Democracy and Human Rights, EMDHR, FKA, Senegal, Human Rights Institute of South Africa, HURISA, Institute for Human Rights and Development in Africa, the Gambia, Institute for Justice and Reconciliation, International Refugee Rights Initiative, Uganda, Movement in Amahoro, RADDHO, Regional Network on Peace and Stability, WARIPNET, West African Refugee and International Displaced Persons Network, Hala Al-Kharib, women's rights activist in the Horn of Africa and the Sudan region, Carlet Letilogen, Executive Director, HURISA. So these are the organizations petitioning the United Nations to act before too late, before the Rwanda genocide repeated itself in Ethiopia. So it's a very good letter, but the problem is, do China and Russia support this? I don't think so, especially under the current circumstances where the war is waging in Ukraine. No way you can get, before that even, more than 10 times they met, the United Nations Security Council met 10 times on, I think more than 10 times on Ethiopia. No resolution because of China and Russia. The same could happen in the future as long as China and Russia stand with Abiy Ahmed. That's the problem. That is the only problem. So they have to find another mechanism through European Union or through US. Okay, the last one. This is a good one for children. FDA authorizes Pfizer COVID-19 booster shots for children aged 5 to 11. The United States Food and Drug Administration has granted emergency use authorization for a booster dose of Pfizer BioNTech COVID-19 vaccine for children aged 5 to 11, at least 5 months after completion of the primary vaccine series. Pfizer requested this emergency use authorization at the end of April, citing company data that showed that a child vaccine dose raised Omicron fighting antibodies by 36 times in this age group. While it has already been the case that COVID-19 tends to be less severe in children than adults, the Omicron wave has seen more kids getting sick with the disease and being hospitalized, and the children may also experience longer-term effects even following initial mild disease. FDA Commissioner Dr. Robert Califf said in a news release Tuesday. The FDA is authorizing the use of single booster dose of the Pfizer BioNTech COVID-19 vaccine for children 5 through 11 years of age to provide continued protection against COVID-19. So that is a good one for children, and you should take advantage if you have a children 5 to 11, and it is this thing is effective and doesn't have negative impact, because the study was conducted by on like 4,500 children, so without negative impact. So it's a good one. Take advantage of it if you have a children, or if you know somebody has children aged 5 to 11. So thank you. That's the end of the reading. I have two short videos. One is on Sweden and Finland application to join NATO, and Russia is angry about that, and also warning to do something, but they are, they send formal application. So let's listen.
General Jens Stoltenberg welcoming the ambassadors of the two countries that want to become the newest members to join an alliance which currently has 30 members. The ambassadors had with them their formal letters of application. This moment marking a radical change in opinion in the two Nordic nations that had long cherished their non-aligned status, a change that's taken place in a period of less than 3 months since Russia invaded Ukraine.
Every nation has the right to choose its own path. You have both made your choice after thorough democratic processes. And I warmly welcome the requests by Finland and Sweden to join NATO. You are our closest partners, and your membership in NATO would increase our shared security.
Of the current NATO members, 29 out of 30 strongly support Sweden and Finland's membership. They both have sophisticated armies, substantial fleets of aircraft, and both have served alongside NATO forces in the Balkans and Afghanistan. The leader of one NATO member, though, has objections. Turkey's President Erdogan accuses both countries of harbouring terrorists, in particular Kurdish nationalist groups. The US is confident that Turkey can be persuaded, and that's why the US Secretary of State will be meeting his Turkish counterpart soon at the UN in New York. If Turkey does change its position, the two countries could be sitting around the NATO table as invitee nations at a summit at the end of June. Formal ratification, though, will take several months more. In a significant move, the US aircraft carrier, the USS Harry Truman, and its strike group have been moved in recent hours to the Baltic Sea. Finland and Sweden are not yet members covered by NATO's security guarantees, but its presence is a clear sign to Russia if it was considering any response to the latest developments. James Bayes, Al Jazeera, at NATO headquarters in Brussels.
This incredible dental device is giving peace of mind for just $100.
Okay.
Dentists are calling it the next best thing.
Okay, this is the last one about shortage of baby formula in the United States.
The Defense Production Act gives the government the ability to require suppliers to direct needed resources to infant formula manufacturers before any other customer who may have ordered that good. I'm also announcing Operation Fly Formula. That's to be able to speed up the import of infant formula and start getting more formula in stores as soon as possible.
I just didn't have enough supply with breast milk, so I had to do formula. But like, I think about like the new moms who are going through that of like they're already having stigma for using formula, and then they can't even find that.
It's important to remember that for babies on formula, this is the only food option. There is no substitute. I think we have to probably reevaluate what critical infrastructure really means. So we're, for example, we're keeping a strategic supply of crude oil and petroleum, but do we have critical strategic supplies of food items, baby formula?
Okay, so thank you, Al Jazeera, for that update. And is talking about a critical shortage of baby formula in the United States and the Biden solution in handling it. So it's surprising. So it's a difficulty for those babies and infants. So let me finish today's presentation by saying this: Ethiopia is the land of lawlessness and the land of conflict, tension, the land of inflation, the land of hate, and the land of hopelessness. There is no hope for young generation. There is no hope for adult generation. No hope under the leadership of Prosperity Party and under the leadership of Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed. You heard from residents of Addis Ababa expressing frustration and speaking to themselves, worrying about what to feed their children, how to pay their rent, how to feed themselves, speaking to self like a madman. It's a psychological problem. So it's a frustration about inflation. The solution is on Ethiopians. Avoid the fear Prime Minister created. Challenge the government. Come out and face the government. I know there are so many undercover securities, but they are not more than the population. If the population determined to come out and challenge the system, they can do it. Avoid fear and start doing like this. Just simply, don't throw stone. Don't throw any bomb. Just come out. Enough is enough. Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed administration must go. That's more than enough. People are suffering. People are frustrated. People are hating each other. And people are speaking to themselves. Don't have a solution. The solution is on you Ethiopians to come out and challenge. And instead of fighting each other, challenge the government. And the upcoming discussion, the national dialogue designed Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed, is not a solution for that country, will not bring any solution. So don't expect any solution. And don't expect any solution from the Prime Minister or his Prosperity Party. The solution only is on your hand. Come out, protest like Sudanese and Tunisians maybe, or, you know, it's your right. It's your right. You don't have to die in silence. So that's all my message for today. And I will be back with other news and updates. Be safe, everyone. Thank you for joining me. Share, like, and subscribe to my channel. And so long, everyone.